We're moving on to canons and competencies today. We'll start with canons, but first I want to comment on the introductions and the class, and I'm delighted with the variety of students in the class, that we have students from the Diocese of Belize and from Japan. It's really exciting to have this variety. We'll learn a lot from having such a diversity of students in the class. But I do want to mention that, and I said this in one of the responses to a discussion question or a forum, is that the class really is about the Episcopal Church and the Book of Common Prayer and our canons in the Episcopal Church in the U.S., which of course is much more than the U.S., but we'll do that at another time. And partly that's because that's what I know about. But I would welcome input from those who are from the province of the West Indies, which we noted probably should be called Province of the Caribbean, and from Japan, and to give us input as to the variety of traditions in the church. I think all that would be really helpful. And thanks for your introductions. If you have not yet posted in the introduction forum or started to respond to the questions, I encourage you to do that. There are two canons in our Canons and Constitution in the Episcopal Church that are specific to deacons. Canon 6, this is all in Title 3, of the ordination of deacons and of the life and work of deacons, and others that you may be interested in. Canon 5 in Title 3 is general provisions regarding ordination, so that it applies to priests, deacons, and bishops. And then the whole of Title 4. But you'll have another course on that, most likely. It's required as part of your formation, ecclesiastical discipline, Title 4. But if you're reading Title 4, you may already be in trouble. Right. So Canon 6 is about ordination, and it establishes, in broad outline, the process from, I think I might be interested in being a deacon or a priest, to ordination and beyond. Your diocese will have a more specific process. The process set here in the canons applies across the church and is somewhat general. Within your own diocese, the bishop will have established a process that sets how do you actually do such things as establish postulancy or candidacy. That process, we are pretty sure, will be consistent with the canons. But it also institutes a process of continued formation. When you're ordained, you're not done with your formation. You've hit that milestone. But formation is a lifelong effort. And courses like this are part of that. So the process begins with a nomination. Often someone will talk to the rector or priest in charge, or just someone they're interested in talking to, about, I think maybe I'm called to some other ministry. Maybe I should be a deacon. And can you tell me about that? So there'll be informal conversation. And a person is not a nominee, but sometimes referred to at that point as an inquirer. But just talking about what it might be and what's it like to be a deacon. If that becomes a formal process, in many dioceses, you will need to talk with the bishop and establish a contact with the canon for formation, or whoever watches over that whole process in the diocese. But there will be a discernment committee established in the congregation, and it's sometimes called a congregation discernment committee, or sometimes a community discernment community. If it's called community, it probably includes somebody, an Episcopalian, from outside the congregation, just to give a different perspective. So the two major pieces in this are the discernment committee, within the congregation, the discernment committee, and the rector or clergy in charge, and the bishop. So, and this is the beginning of the process. If that discernment goes well and the community and the individual discerns that, yes, there is a genuine call to the diaconate, the person would apply for postulancy. And at this point, the Commission on Ministry becomes more formally involved. Postulancy involves the Commission on Ministry agreeing that there's a call and the person has gifts that the church needs in the diaconate. Another also required for postulancy are a psychological evaluation and a background check. Those are to make sure that the people who are coming into the process are mentally fit to do it and don't have red flags in their background that would say we don't want this person as clergy. During postulancy, it's a process of courses like this one, field education or field work in a congregation or some other worship community or another community of faith, and clinical pastoral education in most dioceses. That's learning how to make a hospital call and dealing with problems that you really can't solve. And how do you do that as clergy? And throughout postulancy and candidacy, at this point, you start writing letters to the bishop 4 times a year on Ember Days. There's an Ember Day in the fall, in September, one in December at Michaelmas, one in the spring, and one in the summer. And those are on the Ember Days in the calendar. And that process will continue through ordination. So you've got coursework, field ed, clinical pastoral education, prevention of sexual misconduct. So in the Episcopal Church, that's the Safe Church, Safe Communities training for most dioceses. What are the requirements for reporting evidence of abuse? Constitution and Canons, especially Title IV, we mentioned that earlier, and the Church's teaching on racism. Candidacy will prepare you for candidacy, and another group gets involved in the process now, and that's the Standing Committee. So the Commission on Ministry makes a recommendation to the Standing Committee and to the bishop that this person is ready for candidacy, which is another step in the process. And candidacy, like postulancy, is granted by the bishop, but this time the Standing Committee is the group that's involved. And at this point, we're looking at how has the person proceeded through formation. So there may be letters from the seminary, may be examinations. In our diocese, we have 2 exams, one on liturgy and worship, one on scripture. There may be a portfolio of the work that you have done in your courses or in your field work. Also interviews. All of this depends on what the diocesan policy is. And a letter from the congregation, from the vestry, and from the rector, also recommending the person for candidacy. Once candidacy is achieved, then ordination is the next step, and that's with the approval of the Standing Committee, with a letter of support from the candidate's congregation. And the new ordinand generally is assigned a mentor at ordination for continued support, and formation continues. Now we'll consider it to be continuing ed as required by the bishop. And sometimes that's because there's something that was missing in the formation, or all of us have growing edges, things that we need to learn more about. And we'll actually talk more about that in our second video when we talk about the competencies. But formation is lifelong. The other canon that we're concerned about is of the life and work of deacons. And it describes this notion that the deacon serves directly under the authority of and is accountable to the bishop. You report once a year to the bishop on your life in ministry, and more often if necessary. You'd usually be placed in a congregation or a community of faith or a chaplaincy or some other setting to exercise your ministry as a deacon. In the Diocese of Michigan, where I work, we have all of those examples of where deacons are placed. In some dioceses, the bishop makes the decision where the person goes. Well, in all dioceses, the bishop makes that decision, but the role of the deacon may be different from one diocese to another. Here, if a deacon is looking for a particular placement, we encourage work on the deacons' part to visit congregations or places where they can carry out their ministry and decide where do they best fit. Where do their gifts meet the needs of that community? And then come to the bishop and to the archdeacon with ideas of where to serve. The canons also specifically point out that deacons may participate in the governance of the church. And that was put in there because in the ordination service, there's nothing about taking a place in the councils of the church, which is a phrase used in the ordination of a priest. And years ago, in some dioceses, deacons were not permitted to have voice or vote in convention. And the canons now specifically provide that deacons may provide in the in the governance of the church. So deacons do have that role along with priests and bishops. Recently, it's been in the last 5 or 6 years, it's been provided because of the change in the rules of the church pension fund that deacons may be paid an honorarium of $25 a month, $300 a year, which allows contributions to the pension fund of 18%. So the total is $354 per year for a congregation. In many dioceses now it's required, it's optional in every diocese, would be stated in the letter of agreement. But the benefit of it is not the $300 because, or $25 a month. That's not near compensation for the work that you do as a deacon. But it makes some benefits of the pension plan available. And I encourage you to talk with people in your diocese who understand the pension plan arrangements and how that works to see what you can get for that. Or the Association for Episcopal Deacons has information on that on the website. This is fairly new. I mean, for many, many years, deacons were not paid at all. And this is not really pay, it's an honorarium, but it gets some benefits of the pension fund. The canons also provide for what's known as canonical residence. That is, where do you serve? Under which bishop do you serve as a deacon? Where do you have voice and vote in convention? It'll be a diocese, probably the one where you were raised up. If you move, you may be licensed to serve in another diocese. That's not changing your canonical residency. The bishop just gives you a license to serve there for specific ministries. If you intend to move and not return to your original diocese, and you're not going there to retire, but you're going there to serve, then the bishop would issue letters dimissori, which allows you to transfer canonical residency to another diocese. It's not an automatic process, but do it in conversation with the sending bishop and the receiving bishop. Deacons eventually may retire. The mandatory requirement is age 72. I've worked well past 72 because I have the permission of the bishop to do that. Annually, I meet with the bishop. Annually, I offer to retire. And annually, the bishop says, keep going, Tim, we need your work. So many deacons work past 72, but you do it only with the permission of the bishop. And it will stay there because sometimes a person wants to continue working, but in fact is not able to, and this gives the bishop the opportunity to counsel a person into a graceful retirement. And it's reviewed annually at your birthday. It might be just part of your annual conversation with the bishop on how you're doing. All right, we'll pick this up with the next video is on the competencies for deacons, and you can take a break and then come back for that one.